Hello and welcome everyone to our 7th and final lecture in this series. I'm so pleased to have you all here as we wrap up with an essential topic, econometric models. Today we'll use the Phillips curve model as a case study to tie together many of the concepts we have explored throughout the course. This lecture is a culmination of what we've learned so far, so I encourage you to think critically and reflect on how these ideas apply to real-world economic policymaking. As always, feel free to engage, ask questions, or even share examples that come to mind during the lecture. Now, let's dive in. Econometric models. To begin, let's revisit the foundation of econometrics. What are economic models? Economic models are simplified representations of reality designed to help us analyze, predict, and explain economic behavior. In essence, these models serve as tools that allow us to break down complex economic systems into manageable parts, making it easier to study and understand. Economic models can take several forms, each serving a different purpose. 1. Verbally. Sometimes models are described in words, making them accessible and easy to understand for a broad audience. By describing relationships verbally, we capture the essence of how one factor influences another. For example, we might say that higher wages generally lead to increased consumer spending. 2. Numerically. Other times, economic models are depicted numerically, often using data tables. These tables allow us to see precise numbers and patterns that describe how variables interact in real-world scenarios. They are particularly useful in tracking trends over time, such as the relationship between interest rates and economic growth. 3. Graphically. Graphs and charts help us visualize the relationships between different economic variables. For instance, supply and demand curves are often used to show the interaction between price and quantity in markets. These visual aids provide a clear picture of how changes in one variable can impact another. 4. Algebraically. Some models are formalized algebraically, using equations to describe the relationships between variables. These equations provide a precise and quantitative way of understanding economic behavior. For example, an equation might represent the relationship between income, consumption, and savings in an economy. Econometric models are particularly valuable for policymakers. For instance, they are often used to test hypotheses about the effects of minimum wage laws, inflation rates, or changes in employment levels. By analyzing historical data and using econometric techniques, these models help policymakers make informed decisions and craft policies that can influence the economy in desired ways. However, it's important to recognize that no model is perfect. Economic models simplify the complexity of real-world economies, and they rely heavily on assumptions about how individuals, businesses, and governments behave. These assumptions can limit the accuracy of the predictions and the effectiveness of policies derived from them. Therefore, while econometric models provide valuable insights, they should always be considered in the context of their limitations and assumptions. A model example: the Phillips curve. Now, let's introduce our key example for today, the Phillips curve model. Before we dive into the details, let's recall the main macroeconomic objectives. 1. Economic growth. This is measured by the increase in real gross domestic product, GDP, reflecting the expansion of an economy's production capacity. 2. Price stability. This refers to maintaining low and stable inflation, which is critical for preserving purchasing power and economic stability. 3. Full employment. This aims for a low level of unemployment, ensuring that nearly everyone who wants to work can find employment. The challenge in economics is that these objectives often conflict with each other. For instance, while efforts to reduce unemployment may stimulate economic activity and bring more people into the labor force, they can also lead to higher inflation. Conversely, actions to reduce inflation, such as raising interest rates, may inadvertently increase unemployment. This trade-off is a fundamental issue that policymakers must balance. In 1958, A.W. Phillips plotted wage growth against unemployment for the UK between 1861 and 1913. He observed a stable inverse relationship. When unemployment was low, wage inflation was high, and when unemployment was high, wage inflation was low. This finding became the foundation of what we now call the Phillips curve. Hello.